There are over 1,000 Pokemon, and every single one of them is somebody's favorite. But somebody is wrong. Because with over 1,000 Pokemon, one of them has to be worse than every other one. And I'm going to find it. At first, I thought this task would be simple. After all, there are some Pokemon clearly designed to be bad, the most famous one being Magikarp. It's useless competitively, it's not very good in a playthrough, and the design, although iconic, is rather basic. It's just a really floppy fish. So I was just about ready to pat myself on the back after a hard day of being a YouTuber, but then I realized something. Magikarp evolves into Gyarados. Now I know that most of you probably already knew that, but think about it in this context. Magikarp is the only Pokemon that can evolve into Gyarados. That's something unique and distinct to the orange fish. So how could I possibly name Magikarp as the worst Pokemon of all time when it's the only Pokemon capable of turning into one of the most iconic monsters in the entire franchise? And the more that I thought about it, the more I realized that a lot of the Pokemon who are clear standouts to be the worst Pokemon ever evolve into something better. Feebas, for example, is basically Magikarp with a reskin, but Milotic is such a great Pokemon that there's no way that its pre-evolution could be the worst Pokemon of all time. This is going to be a lot harder than I expected. So let's talk about what factors I'm going to be considering here. First, how good a Pokemon is competitively. I am a competitive player, and I think being able to use a Pokemon and have it actually be good is enough of a reason to keep it off my list. I'll only be considering the official competitive formats for competitive play, so if a Pokemon was good in a fan format like Zoodle used, they aren't safe from me. I'll also be considering how good a Pokemon is during a casual playthrough of a game. And this probably goes without saying, but this is not factoring in any ROM hacks. I'll be factoring in how memorable and recognizable a Pokemon is. So everything from Generation 1 is safe, because let's be honest, they're all iconic, even Mr. Mime. I will also be giving points to Pokemon that do something unique, even if that unique thing kinda sucks. Like Minior is not a good Pokemon, but I think the different colored cores thing is neat enough that it keeps it safe from this list for now. And on that note, I will also be judging these Pokemon based on how they look. This is the most subjective part of the process, and I'll give it less weight than the other categories, but ultimately, a Pokemon's design is pretty important, and to not consider it under the guise of this being some kind of objective list, in my opinion, would be misleading. This list is subjective based on my tastes. My tastes just happen to be exquisite. For example, Sudowoodo will not be appearing on this list because I think it's really funny. I spent a ton of time poring over the Pokedex, searching for the worst Pokemon of all time. And in the end, I narrowed it down to 10 contenders. Let's talk about these 10. Starting with the Pokemon that I've deemed least offensive among them, Ledian. Ledian is just awful. It's a bug and flying type Pokemon introduced in Generation 2, and competitively speaking, it's one of the worst fully